Pieter Tubergen on your left, Chris Andersen on your right. It is Affinity, and it is Blue-Red Gift Storm. We'll be underway here in just a moment, and now I am going to buy you a Thing figurine.
Yep.
Since that is the superhero that you relate to the most. Did you play Versus Series or you worked on Versus Series?
I worked on it.
Okay. A Signal Pest to start things here for Tubergen. Andersen with Aspire Bluff, Canal, and a Serum Vision. So he will draw a card and scry twice. I hope that's why Thing was a pretty good card in that game. Various versions of Thing.
Yeah. Until the game became just this endless morass of tutoring and weird combos. But back when the game was largely just superheroes brawling, Thing was pretty good.
Thing was pretty good, yeah. Darksteel Citadel. Cranial Plating. And now Chris will play Sleight of Hand. He's found a card he's happy with. Gifts Ungiven is what he's taken. Steam Vents will be tapped. Pass the turn back.
There we go. Just got to clean up the zones. I think Wizards might have actually announced some sort of policy change pertaining to this.
I believe that is correct.
And anyhow, Andersen's graveyard previously looked kind of like it was an object on the battlefield. Move it to a slightly more distinct place.
All right. Plating on Inkmoth Nexus, and I think we're going to try to go the Infect route because that might just be the quickest way to go.
Yep. Just trying to cobble together turn 3 kill. Turn 4, rather. Andersen, without having played the Accelerator on the first turn of the game, unlikely to be able to kill on the third turn himself. Not impossible from here. Much easier with Electromancer or Baral.
Well, we're going to see if Andersen's got the goods or not. He will pass for now.
I mean, this is pretty much the best that Affinity can hope for in the matchup here. Is just I present a turn 4 kill, I won the die roll, and hopefully you can't win on 3.
Especially without having access to colored mana, too.
Yeah. And he can do it in a way that completely avoids the issue with Grape Shot.
That's unsubstantiated.
Okay. Exciting.
That's tough, too, because Pieter played his land already, so he can't replay Inkmoth Nexus.
Yeah. Although the issue here, if he, I assumed that Andersen would be in a position to let it go, but if he can't, that land drop's really punitive.
Yep.
Because if Andersen gets the gifts and untap, forget about it.
The game's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how this works.
No, Tubergen rather has to see if there's some way to cobble together lethal this turn. I'd be surprised.
I would be shocked. And, I mean, if you're Pieter here, too, is he's going to equip Signal Pest, you have to think that if I don't kill him this turn, I'm dead. Fire up Inkmoth Nexus. Here are the attacks. I mean, it's a pretty healthy attack, but it's not 20. Couple battle cry triggers. Blinkmoth going to get in there. All that good stuff. There's a Spire of Industry, and it looks like he's actually just gone away from the Infect version now, too.
Well, I think he's playing Spire of Industry in hopes that he can bluff something like a Spell Pierce here.
And that or Galvanic Blast, right?
Yeah. Although he does have 3 Galvanic Blasts in the main deck, so it's possible it's actually there. But he also has lethal on the table next turn, so it's not like he needs to be infecting.
Noxious Revival, Past in Flames, Electromancer, and Baral, Chief of Compliance is what Andersen will gives for.
I don't think you can give him both the accelerators here, so I guess you give him neither. It all kind of lands in the same place because he can Noxious Revival back for whatever the piece is. But
well, that's a trick with gifts, right? If everything goes right, he can. There's no good split.
Right. Past in Flames covers you in most of these spots. It's a little bit more complicated when the creatures are involved because when those are dead, they're dead. But I think giving him one of the 2 creatures and one of the 2 spells doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you have the Galvanic Blast and you feel like he won't be net positive on mana if he plays an accelerator and plays 1 spell because you can kill in response. And then you can hopefully the 1 spell, be it the Revival or the Past in Flames, is enough to get him over the line. I think that if you don't have a Galvanic Blast, you have to give him both spells and hope for the best.
Sure. Peter's trying to figure out the best way to split this. Okay.
Right. If you don't have a Galvanic Blast, I think that has to be the split.
Noxious Revival here from Chris in his upkeep. He'll put Baral back on top. And he's going to get out some handy-dandy counters here. He'll start with Baral. That'll be spell 2 as Noxious Revival is spell 1. And here is Pyretic Ritual. There will be a response, I'm sure. In response to that Galvanic Blast.
Yeah, Andersen's hand's completely loaded. He's got a bunch of rituals, a Manamorphose, and a Past in Flames. So.
And there's Desperate Ritual in a minute. Well, he's going to let Pyretic resolve. And then he'll play Desperate, most likely. Yep. There's Manamorphose.
You know why you do it this way? How are you
Talk
doing
to
it
me.
right now?
Talk to me.
Mind Break Trap. One at a time.
That's a good point.
One at a time.
That's a good point. For the affinity player with main deck Mind Break Trap.
No reason not to do it. It's good to have good practices, right?
Yeah, of course.
You get into post-board games where that could be a card your opponent has.
I agree.
You know?
Now Pyretic will resolve. 6 spells. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're going to do a little count of the spells, I think, just to make sure, because there's a Galvanic Blast there, too. So it's actually 7. And we'll see spell 8 here in a moment, which is probably going to be Past in Flames. It could be the Sleight of Hand, though.
9 in the pool.
He's got to be a little careful. I mean, I'm pretty sure he can kill him this turn, but he doesn't want to get doesn't want to get cocky, I guess, for lack of a better term.
All right, so that should get him up to spell 8.
3 red, 2 blue. Couple Pyretics. See if he wants to go to Desperate. He will. Spell 11.
Yeah, I think from this spot, with the amount of mana that he has, he can Gifts. You can go get a Grape Shot. And even if the Grape Shot goes to the graveyard, you can put it back on top of your deck.
With Noxious Revival, yeah. Draw it with Manamorphose. Something like that. So it's 12, spell count 12 right now. Grape Shot, Desperate. Brawl, okay.
Yeah, just Grape Shot and mana, however you want to break it up.
Mm-hmm. Though Chris has been away for a little while, because he has to think through this, where for Kayla or Paul it would be automatic.
Right.
That's the difference.
I mean, the game is deterministic from here. There's nothing that Tubergen can do. So you can draw up your own path here. And, yeah, this just comes down to reps. Like, have you played this enough to know how to chain together 8 more spells from this position, finish out the game?
If you do, it's no problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just ultimately, like you said, it just comes down to reps and knowing exactly how things go here.
So you cannot give Andersen the grape shot. That's just got to go straight to the graveyard.
Yeah.
So start there. And then, I guess, I think it all leads to the same spot. I guess you had to give him both creatures because the second creature doesn't do a whole lot more than the first can do.
Second creature's redundant. He can cast one of the creatures, leave him with 2 red, play Manamorphose, which will generate him mana. Maybe play Noxious Survival before the Manamorphose to put the Grape Shot back on top of his deck and then draw it with Manamorphose.
Yeah.
Manamorphose, like I said, will generate mana, so maybe that's a way.
I do not know if this is necessarily the most efficient path that Andersen selected, but I do believe this is enough.
I think that one of those creatures is supposed to be another ritual.
Yeah, because all other things being equal, I just want more spells to be part of the equation because they're good in your hand and they're good in the graveyard, and the creatures are only good in your hand. But I don't think it matters all that much.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is the right thing from Tubergen's side.
Me too. Those 2 cards, the Pyretic Ritual and the Grape Shot, are not being hit by Past in Flames. So here's Baral. That's spell 13.
It does.
Noxious Survival will put that on top. So Noxious Survival on top, Grape Shot, all that stuff. Yeah, so he's got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, good enough. Chris Andersen will win. Oh, yeah, so what he does is he Noxious Survivals it on top. He draws a Grape Shot. He's got red, red, blue.
Yep.
And then he plays Grape Shot targeting you, unsubstantiate the Grape Shot, Grape Shot again.
Right.
There
okay.
we go.
Yep.
Got it. Little weird, but he's figured it out, so we are all good to go. Chris Andersen's going to win game number 1 here over Pieter Tubergen. Blue-Red Gift Storm up a game over Affinity. Generally, that's what the result will be for game 1. We'll go over game 2 after a few messages from our sponsors. We are back for game number 2 here between Pieter Tubergen and Chris Andersen. It's Affinity versus Blue Red Gift Storm. Andersen wins game number 1. So we'll start with Pieter and his sideboard with 2 Gear Power Aether Grid, 2 Stubborn Denial, 2 Thoughtseize, a Dispatch, a Rest in Peace, Warship Vanderblast, Whip Flare, and Snaring Bridge. Grafdigger's Cage, Ceremonious Rejection, and Stay in the Mind. He's actually got some good ones here.
Yeah, Stay in the Mind, Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Thoughtseize, and 2 Stubborn Denials. Really nice sideboard.
I like that Rest in Peace, too.
Yeah, Rest in Peace also.
Yeah, I think 7 good ones there for Pieter, while Chris, with 4 pieces of the puzzle, 3 Lightning Bolt, 2 Pyromancer's Ascension, 2 Hurkyl's Recall, 2 Empty the Warrens, and a Braid, and a Wipe Away.
Okay, well, the Abrade and the Hurkyl's Recall are going to be good here, and the 3 copies of Lightning Bolt. If he thinks the game could go on for a long time, and he thinks his graveyard's going to be good, then I like the Pyromancer's Ascension. And if he needs to bring in pieces of the puzzle anytime he pairs up with all this removal spells, I buy that too.
Well, those are the options there for both players. We will find out here soon enough as they do shuffle up here for game number 2. Do keep in mind, we'll be back here tomorrow morning from the Louisville Expo Center. 10 a.m. That's where we'll kick off day number 2 of coverage. 10 a.m. East Coast time, excuse me. 6 rounds of action, make our cut to the top 8. Let you find people, vote on what our quarterfinal match will be, and then we'll watch those quarterfinals unfold, and someone's walking out of here with $5,000 and an qualification to our invitational weekend at SCGKY, which is only a couple of weekends away. It's getting here pretty quick, folks. And it's going to be one heck of a weekend. StarCityGames.com Power 9 Series returning, Duel for Duels, no ban list Modern Open, and, of course, the invitational, too.
And if you can make old school, 93, 94, if that goes well enough, we can get hopefully to the point where I get to cover it on air, which would be a dream for me.
That would be something. That would be
What rule set do you play with?
I don't know.
Do you play with Ivory Tower resolves before Black Vice because life gain goes before damage?
I don't even know what you're saying right now.
The rules for Ivory Tower and Black Vice.
I did not know that was a thing.
Did you get to go down to 0 with Mirror Universe? Can someone tell me? I don't know. I literally don't know.
I don't know the rules.
They've let you play with the rules.
I don't know. I love that you know all of these cards and rules. You could go to 0. Did you lose like the end of the turn or something?
End of phases.
End of phases, okay.
So you could City of Brass yourself to 0 and Mirror Universe your opponent.
I love that. Tubergen not off to a very fast start here. Just a Springleaf Drum off a Spire of Industry for Chris Andersen. He'll play a Serum Visions to start yet again. Now we go over to Pieter. Nice 93-94.
Yeah.
He'll play a Vault Scourge.
Is Mana Burn a thing?
I hope so. I liked Mana Burn. Here's Thoughtseize. Andersen's got a Baral, a Desperate Ritual, a Lightning Bolt, a couple of lands, and a Hurkyl's Recall. Sure. That's pretty easy keep.
Well, it's not exactly a hand that's super explosive, but that just happens with Storm post board a lot, especially in a matchup like this where Andersen has so much good interaction in his sideboard. So not a hand that's likely to combo off, but a hand with a lot of time to work with.
And you know how this deck works. All it takes is 1 Gifts.
Yep. Yeah, the Gifts is a pretty potent incentive. And the Lightning Bolts are too. I've noticed this in my games against Storm, where it looks like it's not a combo piece, and that is sort of true. But Lightning Bolt does shorten up how much you need to do with Grape Shot to win the game. It's not exactly a ritual or a cantrip, obviously, but it does facilitate you going off once you cast Past in Flames.
Baral, Chief of Compliance, is what hit the graveyard there from Thoughtseize. Vault Scourge and Signal Pest, they're going to team up. Well, Lightning Bolt looks like it's going to take care of the Vault Scourge. So Signal Pest will deal 0 damage, of course. The follow-up here is a Grafdigger's Cage, which Andersen, of course, has an answer for there, and Hurkyl's Recall. Gifts Ungiven is the draw here for Chris. He'll play a Steam Vents tapped and simply pass the turn back.
Yeah, Chris, no rush.
He's at 20.
And Tubergen, to the point about Lightning Bolt, I want to point this out. He's at 16 from the Thoughtseize and the Phyrexia mana. And there's a Lightning Bolt in the graveyard. So what Andersen needs to do to actually go off is a lot less burdensome than it would have been otherwise. And that Lightning Bolt does add to the kill in a way.
That's land 4 for Gifts number 1 here, folks. And it could be a runaway. Here is an attack for 2. Darksteel Citadel there for Tubergen. Andersen's going to try to resolve a Gifts. We'll see if Tubergen has a Spell Pierce, and he does. He actually has Stubborn Denial. Either way, it is a counterspell for the very powerful engine of this deck, as Andersen picks up a copy of Desperate Ritual.
Andersen not under very much pressure to do anything, and he's sitting on quite the safety valve in Hurkyl's Recall.
Tubergen up to 20 now, and he'll play a Welding Jar. Pass the turn back. Andersen has fallen down to 16. He's drawn a Pyretic Ritual. He'll pass the turn back. Heading back Pieter's way.
Okay.
Want to go over those?
So, Chaos Orb legal.
Okay.
Game is Sudden Death Chaos Orb. That's to resolve draws or ties.
Yeah, what is that?
I assume that means you have to hit your opponent in the throat with a Chaos Orb. But I don't actually know. You had to kill your opponent with a Chaos
We'll have to
Orb.
get confirmation on
I
that.
don't know what that means.
Okay. And confirmation is pretty important there, how that's going to work.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't want to mess up those rules.
Yeah. Arcbound Ravager and friends have joined the battlefield here for Pieter Tubergen.
But the clock is still very slow.
Mm-hmm. And Chris still has Hurkyl's Recall. He's found Passing Flames, and I think he might just be able to kill him now.
You think right now? I thought he might have to give a turn of play Baral, Hurkyl's Recall, you end of turn, on tap and go for it. He might. I guess he could be good to go now. If he's not playing Baral, then he's got to have this rolled up.
Certainly feels close. I guess the plan is probably end step Hurkyl's Recall to get that Graph Digger's Cage off the battlefield.
Yeah, and then you just go.
Yeah, he can take a shot.
That's why I was surprised for Andersen to not go for it there, because I assumed Baral plus half Hurkyl's Recall available seemed like the right line to me. Mm-hmm. But if Andersen's not doing it, obviously for a reason, find out in a moment.
All right, going to eat Springleaf Drum, make the Ravager a little bit larger. Can't forget about that Signal Pest Battle Cry trigger. An attack for 5 right now.
And if I'm Andersen, I'm just taking this.
Eat a Mox.
Still taking it.
Yep. I'm taking it unless it brings me to 4.
Yeah.
Right now, he'd be falling to 10.
I do not envy the Affinity player who needs to figure out how much material to sacrifice to Arcbound Ravager to bleed out a Hurkyl's Recall.
That's not your favorite spot?
Does not seem pleasant to me.
No. Wonder how Pieter feels then. All right.
6.
Now's a good time. Did he draw a counterspell?
Dude, do not sit here and act like you are thinking about whether or not you're going to spell pierce this. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. It might get better. It might get better than Hurkyl's Recall. I don't know. I'll wait him out.
The card in hand here for Pieter that he drew was Galvanic Blast.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I guess that's reasonable to think about if you want to do it while you have Metalcraft versus killing an Electromancer. If you're Hollywooding there hoping that Oh, he has a Spell Pierce, and he's waiting. I would give that one up.
Serum Visions. Draw a card. Steam Vents. Take a look at 2.
5 p.m. Standard challenge players. Pairings for the next round are on the way. Once again, 5:30 standard. 5 o'clock standard challenge. Pairings for the next round are on the way.
One on top and one on bottom here for Andersen. Looks like he's got access to a lot of mana.
Yeah, I mean, he's
I don't know if the game is over yet, though.
playing this land tapped. I think he's just going to pass and wait for one more turn. Or, okay. He can still wait, effectively wait one more turn this way, too. Yeah, it's possible that Andersen wanted to wait on the Brawl the last turn because playing Hurkyl's Recall and then playing Burrell makes it a lot harder for Tubergen to put together Metalcraft and then Galvanic Blast. If he puts the Burrell out there just as is the previous turn, well then it might die.
Welding Jar and Mox Opal into Grafdigger's Cage.
Andersen with a second Hurkyl's Recall in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I assume you just let this resolve.
I think you let them all resolve.
Yeah.
Like you, I do not feel great here. With Pieter's position.
No, it seems pretty rough.
There's Galvanic Blast.
And Pieter wants to do this now because if Andersen responds with another Hurkyl's Recall to dampen the Metalcraft, Tubergen can at least recast the Grafdigger's Cage before passing the turn back to Andersen.
It's good timing on the spell.
Yeah, this is the right time for this.
Andersen's hand right now is a bunch of rituals, 2 Desperate, 1 Pyretic, Hurkyl's Recall, Past in Flames, and a card on top of his deck that we don't know. Another Vault Scourge. Tubergen going to fall down to 22. We'll pass the turn back.
No mana now, so Andersen doesn't have to play around any sort of permission.
Yep. Andersen looks like he picked up a copy of Unsubstantiate. Just don't know if he has enough mana to get going. Because in order for him to get going, he has to Hurkyl's Recall and Gifts. He'd prefer for all of this to be cheaper, so he could generate more of an advantage.
Yeah,
That's
it feels like if he had one of the creatures, it would be easy. And as it stands, maybe he has to wait another turn. Maybe he has to Hurkyl's Recall and then go again.
Now, one thing he can do is he can splice on a Desperate Ritual with Desperate Ritual. But yeah, I think this is probably best, which is, again, just let Pieter deploy everything, sweep it up with Hurkyl's Recall, and maybe have enough to go off.
He's got Unsubstantiate as cover at this point, too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no pressure to do anything that risky here. Let Tubergen do whatever. You have the same safety valve if things go wrong. You have a counter spell / bounce spell as protection. There's no rush. You should just be fine here.
All right, here's Recall.
They don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't. Pieter Tubergen will get to deploy some of these things again.
Well, it depends. I mean, if he
Did he play a land?
Yeah, he played. I think he played his third land to go plating Equip.
Yeah.
So
It's the second time we've seen him do something like that.
well, Andersen wouldn't even have had to play the Hercules Recall inside of combat anyway. It's not like there's no way that Tubergen could have played this to end up with Grafdigger's Cage on the battlefield once we get over to Andersen's turn. Once he makes the land drop, then Andersen might as well do it and save the points, but it wasn't like this would have played out any differently for Tubergen if he did something else.
Okay. Yeah, all you can do is pass now.
All right, we should. I would be shocked if we can't let it rip from here. Andersen's graveyard is stacked. Although I guess it's not that stacked with mana just yet.
That's the problem.
He's got a lot of mana to work with.
You know, all these mana, all this mana is +1. If it were +2, it would be easy.
Yeah. If he had one of the creatures, it would be trivial.
I think this is a pretty good place to start because if he finds a creature, it's pretty easy. A Desperate Ritual isn't bad. I think he might be taking gifts, though. Yeah, okay. Again, this is a situation much like Game 1. It all just comes down to reps, right?
Right. I mean, if you can, from this position, I think Andersen has enough mana here with all the rituals to be able to gifts for Noxious Revival +2 creatures, and then he has Past in Flames, a loaded graveyard, and one of the reducers. That feels like a path to a win. Tubergen's at 22, but there's a bolt in the graveyard and no shortage of material to work with down there, and you get all your rituals back on the cheap.
See, he's a little bit hesitant. Doesn't want to get it wrong, obviously. Desperate Splicing. Desperate. Up to 7. Yeah, I don't think he can gifts right now. I think he has to Past in Flames first.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a gifts in his graveyard too, so it's not like he needs to gifts twice through the sequence, most likely. I wouldn't get hung up on the gifts. I'm actually surprised he took it over the
I think he wants the
ritual.
mana.
Yeah. The bottle. If you have a gifts in your graveyard, the bottleneck's going to be mana. It's not going to be the second copy of gifts.
Yeah, this part worries me a little bit.
Well, I don't know if it's that worrisome, right? You just go get ritual, reduce. I guess if you go get reducer, he just gives you the two
reducers, and you're brick walled.
You can't cast them, and that's it.
The card needs the most is Manamorphose because now he casts Past in Flames. He's bricked, so he's got to get ritual, Manamorphose, maybe Noxious Revival.
But Noxious Revival feels like a dead end here. Or he can't draw the card.
Also, potentially, it's just it's ritual, Manamorphose, Grape Shot, maybe.
But then you get Grape Shot, Manamorphose, and then what?
That doesn't do it either. He needs another ritual in his hand. That's what he needs.
Right.
And he took a gifts over it. Four mana. They give you Noxious Revival, you can't draw the card. If they won't give you Noxious Revival, well, okay, hold on. If it's ritual, Revival, Manamorphose, what are you giving me?
Ritual, Manamorphose, Revival?
Yeah.
I'm giving you Revival, Ritual.
Revival, Ritual. So Ritual puts me up to 5 mana, Past in Flames, brings me down to 1.
And then
I'm bricked.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so now, oh boy. The gifts that he's played here is Noxious Revival, Manamorphose, Abrade, Grape Shot.
So I'll give you Abrade and Manamorphose. And then we just keep playing and you have an Abrade and no hand?
Yeah. He's in trouble now. I think he's in serious trouble now.
Yeah, I think that we've hit a dead end. I mean, I don't think he can keep going from the spot. Actually, you know what? I think you just give him. I guess Grape Shot. If you give him the Grape Shot, it's dangerous because all he needs to do is be able to get to Pass in Flames to be able to kill you very easily out of the graveyard. So maybe it's supposed to be a Braid. Although I guess you can say, all right, I'll give you the Grape Shot Manamorphose and then challenge you to go off again through the Grafdigger's Cage. Because Tubergen gets to redeploy that next turn.
Yep. And he's got Welding Jar still.
Right. He's got cover for it, too.
Pretty sure Chris is just his only place to say go now.
I think he can cast the Grape Shot. Oh, no, he only did a handful.
Like six, yeah. So let's say go. All right, Peter's going to redeploy.
Yep.
There's the cage. You saw Welding Jar and Mox Opal before that. Curious to see what else Tubergen wants to deploy on this turn. Well, this would be a heck of a game for Tubergen to win if he works himself through 2 Hercules recalls.
Yep.
Ravager. Vault Scourge, take 2, down to 20. Back to Andersen. Don't forget, he does have an Unsubstantiate in hand.
Yeah, he's got yet another answer to the Grafdigger's Cage. And hopefully some turns to rebuild.
Feels like to me it's just a Steam Vent's tapped turn.
Yeah.
I don't want to take 2 here at all. Ugh. The only thing that makes taking 2 here appealing is it allows you to play around Spell Pierce.
Well, if Andersen is thinking, if I get out of this turn and I braid the Grafdigger's Cage or unsubstantiate whatever I need to do, he gets to untap and play Pass in Flames with a ton of mana in the graveyard here. The Grave Shot in hand already rolled up. Not the hardest thing for him to be able to Grave Shot, flash back the Pass in Flames, Grave Shot again.
I mean, Chris falls down to 6, though, from that? From land being untapped? And now...
If Tubergen shoves, you still have the Unsubstantiate to cover you. And a Braid. And both are protected from Spell Pierce.
Yeah?
And, Andersen next turn, his graveyard is flush. Even kind of spinning his tires and not getting a whole lot done with that the previous turn. If he has access to his graveyard, he's got access to his graveyard. And there's a lot of mana to work there, a lot of cantrips. If he finds any sort of cost-reducing creature, I think it's trivial for him to be able to finish out the game. I don't think necessarily he navigated the game the most efficient way up until this point, but I think there are still plenty of resources for him to work with here to ultimately win this one.
So Tubergen's going to attack here.
Yep.
With lethal Vault Scourge and a lethal Ravager. So what do you do if you're Chris?
I will start by abrading your Vault Scourge, right?
Well, the problem is he abrades the Vault Scourge. You Welding Jar it.
And now it's out of combat.
Yeah. And now let's say that Pieter shoves on Ravager. Sack my stuff to kill you. Then what do you do?
And your Unsubstantiate's no good?
You bounce it, but then you can't get Cage off the battlefield.
Right, yep. Yeah. I guess that's
Right?
the third piece, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Pieter Tubergen going to win game number 2 here over Chris Andersen. Affinity and Blue-Red Gift Storm going to go to a third one.
then maybe the line there is you just grape shot for 1 to get the Vault Scourge off the battlefield, and then it's one less thing. Because if he's down,
that I can see.
and then you just have your 4-man. I mean, you're playing into Spell Pierce at that point, which was something that Andersen was trying to avoid. But yeah, the way that he left it there, couldn't deal with both threats and the cage, and that's that.
Well, we'll play a third one here in just a moment. Be right back. Game 3 about to be underway here between Pieter Tubergen and Chris Andersen, Affinity and Blue Red Gift Storm. Going to close out our first day of coverage. And you know what? As bad as that looked for Pieter Tubergen, he just kept playing.
Yep. Didn't pack. Kept forcing the issue. I think the Galvanic Blast play when Andersen had 1 up, and even if he got Hurkyl's Recall, at least he would have a Grafdigger's Cage to show for his work. Andersen had the Hurkyl's Recall. Just let his Baral die instead of fighting over it. That was a huge play. Yeah. It was huge.
Looks like Pieter took a mulligan, so he'll be scrying. All right, let's play the third one. Steam Vents untapped. Sleight of hand. One in hand, one to the bottom. Head back over to Pieter. Spire of Industry, Springleaf Drum. Pass turn. Over to Andersen. Desperate Ritual the draw, Shivan Reef the play. Back to Tubergen. Vault Scourge. And that's going to be hit by Remand. Interesting.
Well, at least for now, it keeps Tubergen off of Metalcraft.
No, what I think is interesting is that it's in the deck after sideboard.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's very, very good right now.
Oh, man. That's the dream. That's the time walk.
Yeah.
And draw a card. And I'll draw a card.
And then what else?
And I'll draw a card.
Okay.
And now I'm going to untap.
Andersen will pass the turn back. Good hand right now for Chris. The only thing he's missing from this hand is gifts. He's got Baral. He's got a bunch of rituals. He has Grape Shot. He has Hurkyl's Recall. Gifts is really the missing piece at this stage. Thoughtseize. Well, that'll change some things. Desperate Rituals, that's 2 of them. Manamorphose, Baral, Hurkyl's Recall, Grape Shot. Those are the 6 card Andersen's working with. Don't think it'll work itself into the equation, but in case it does, 7 minutes.
Yeah, even if we got to 0, these the games don't take a whole lot of time in terms of turns. and then you should be able to close out in the 5 extras.
There goes Baral. Darksteel Citadel. A Vault Scourge. Well, it's back.
That one cage.
I drew the gifts too. Jeez. Jeez. Oh, man.
Of course.
If Tubergen has a cranial plating here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're playing some Magic now.
Yeah, I'd play this deck too.
Yeah. This game is starting to get tough. Equip. Attack. Now we'll see if Andersen wants to ritual into gifts. And if Tubergen has a counterspell here, it's the full blowout.
Yep.
The last time he did this, he was sitting on Galvanic Blast.
Well, then there's nothing to think about. You're not just firing Andersen down to 5, I would imagine. Oh.
Whew.
Oh.
Whew, man.
I can't. I don't. Did Pieter think he was going to get it better than that?
I don't. I mean, he's got Hercule's Recall in his hand.
Sure. Yeah. That's
so.
fair.
What is this, Manamorphose?
I think this is just going to be a short grape shot. Just
Clean up the board?
Grape shot to clean up the board. Yeah. I mean, you can just go. You can just go. Cantrip, grape shot for 3, right?
Well, now he's got to play a ritual.
Or whatever the case may be.
I mean,
Yeah.
he gets to kill everything and hope that Pieter doesn't draw a creature, but he's exhausted himself now. Pieter's going to draw. All right, we're going to go the other way, huh? Little column. Past in Flames to draw.
Still got to work through the cage.
Yep.
But he's got the recall.
He's got the recall. Now what he needs is a mana reducer. Electromancer or Baral. Now you take this punch to the face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 infect. Surprise. I like Pieter not playing that. Now this is the time I like Pieter holding the land drop. Yeah. All right, so now what's Chris going to draw? Sleight of hand. Okay. 2 different cards here. Gifts ungiven among those cards. I think you got to take gifts. I think it's your best card. Yep. Oh, wow. Did he take Slight? Okay. Well, ignore me. Serum Visions. Going to take 1 to play Serum Visions.
I mean, I think the sequence here is he needs to find a reducer, and then he needs to, the next turn, just peel something for Cage, and then he can go.
Baral and Manamorphose are the cards he's scrying between. He's got Spire Buff Canal in his hand. Looks like he's going to put maybe both of them on top. Yep, pass. The question is, has he left himself dead over the next 2 draws?
Yeah, I mean, I believe he's drawing Metamorphose into Baral. I mean, it's free for him to keep the Metamorphose.
Mm-hmm.
He needs the Baral anyway. Right, so he plays Metamorphose. I guess the Cage is the issue now. Again, he's back stuck where he can't. He could do everything were it not for the Cage, but I don't know if his hand can beat the Cage, and I don't know if his hand can survive a turn where he just says go, because Tubergen's going to dump his whole hand on the table. He's going to have a plating to pair with the Nexus to finish out the game next turn.
The cage is always the issue. Let's see what this is. All right, drum. Nexus. Yep, 3. Plating. Pass. You're facing lethal.
Yep. And
He's just dead.
yeah, if he left Metamorphose Brawl,
Yeah, he's just dead.
yeah.
Sure. Draw your brawl. Yep, Passive Fames. Game. Pieter Tubergen going to win this match over Chris Andersen. 2-1. Affinity is going to make it through Blue-Red Gift Storm. And for the man with the Pepsi hat, 8-1 after day number 1.
Yep. I think Andersen in the second